Sadly, one of the best ways they have of gaslighting us is through children. And when you have outright astroturfing, organizations who don't really care about children, they are just, using it as a front, it's astroturfing. They're anti-privacy advocates. They want government to spy on you. And they just use children as an excuse. And that's what cybersecurity expert Matthew Green has basically uncovered here. And it started with this tweet that he linked to, or whatever tweets are called nowadays, I don't know. But he says, I wonder who exactly is paying for the ads and what their specific business interests are. So we've got a post from this weird person called Tux, whose pronouns are they, she. But they is singular, she is plural? I don't know. And there's a pastel rainbow next to it. But Tux tweets, this anti-encryption ad in Williamsburg is wild. And there's a picture of a child, and it's heartbreaking, and you feel for the child. Oh no, who could do that to a child? And then child stuff that I can't say because I'll get kicked off of YouTube is stored on iCloud. Apple allows it. ProtectChildrenNotAbuse.com. Oh, it's so horrible that Apple is encrypting things and keeping things private. Keeping it away so the government can't see it. Why? Because of the children. Think of the children. And Green says, like if I was in the ad tech or data brokerage industry, I'd sure love these ads. Encryption is bad. Apple is too private. Let's pass some laws to protect the children. And he says, if there's one thing that makes me deeply suspicious, it's scrappy child safety organizations suddenly having huge piles of money to spend on hyper-specific tech-focused political pressure campaigns as opposed to, say, children. Actually helping the children. And he points out there is really big money being spent here. This is not just some do-gooders who really want to protect children. People deserve to know who exactly is footing the bill and why. And he's got a couple of screenshots. One says, an advocacy group is starting a $2 million campaign calling for the company to better police materials on its product and services. And it also says, Heat Initiative sends plane to fly over Apple's iPhone launch with message to check child bad stuff I can't say on iCloud. In case you didn't see in replies, this money traces back and disappears inside a dark money organization called the Hopewell Fund, run by Arabella Advisors. They apparently create fake advocacy groups using big piles of cash from anonymous donors. And there's a list of them here in 2021. You got 28 million, 13.8 million, 5.8 million. And it keeps going down to 2020, 50.6 million, 18.2 million, and so on. And he says, also, can you imagine any serious child safety advocate getting their hands on $2 million and thinking, you know who needs this money most? Large advertising conglomerates in DC and Northern Virginia. All to protect the children. Just saw this all of this is linked below, by the way. Just saw this new investigation into the web of for-profit AI companies pushing anti-encryption legislation in Europe, and it feels like the work of secret organizations in a James Bond movie. And, I linked to this below too as well. I'm not going to go over in detail, but you can look at yourself. Who benefits inside the EU's fight over scanning for the bad stuff? So, some screenshots. He talks about the Brave movement. Their internal advocacy documents lay out the strategy. to support Johansson's proposal in European capitals and with the European Parliament while targeting critics. And it goes into the strategy documents. And the main objective of the Brave Movement mobilization around this proposed legislation is to see it passed and implemented throughout the EU. If this legislation is adopted, it will create a positive precedent for other countries, which we will invite to follow through similar legislation. And then some 200 kilometers north from Brussels in Amsterdam. That's the front line of the fight to identify and remove bad stuff in Europe. Off Limits, previously known as the Online Child Bad Stuff Expertise Agency, or EOKM, Europe's oldest hotline for children and adults wanting to report abuse. Analysts process this many reports and so on. Off Limits director is deeply knowledgeable of the policy on the matter, yet unlike the likes of Thorne, she has had little luck accessing Johansson. The people who are actually dealing with this stuff can't get to the guy. But who can? Well, Commissioner Johansson and her staff visited Silicon Valley and big North American companies. Companies presenting themselves as NGOs, but acting more like tech companies, have influenced Johansson's regulation. Thorne and groups like it have a commercial interest. This, experts say, would unlock the door to the general monitoring of EU citizens, otherwise known as mass surveillance. And remember what I just showed you above, the legislation will set a precedent for other countries, which will follow through with similar legislation. So today the EU, tomorrow the world. And as to clarify his position, the office responded, "The file is currently being discussed closed doors among the shadow rapporteurs, and we are not making any comments so far." And Green closes out, "It never occurred to me how much money there would be in scanning personal communications for crime, and how eager people would be to spend it." But that's where we are. The actual advocates for children, the people who are actually trying to do stuff about it, get pushed to the side because of these astroturfers who gaslight everyone just because they want to get rid of encryption. Because they want government to be able to spy on everything you do. And the next time you see someone pushing this anti-encryption legislation and using the children as an excuse for it, just know that this is what's behind them. This is what's always been behind them and what's always going to be. And you can tell that because if it were the real advocates, well, they'd want stuff that would actually help and not try to get rid of encryption, which won't help and will only make us and children more vulnerable. Thank you so very much for watching. Comments for the Common God, shares for the Share Throne. Please hit like, subscribe, and the bell. And as always, go to donate.pagosity.tv to keep me doing what I do. And if you're worried about privacy, you send it in cryptocurrency. All of that's encrypted, especially if you use something like Monero. And, it's not really encrypted. It's more obscurity than security, but it'll kind of hide it. So I won't tell, I promise. I just appreciate every donation, no matter how small. Again, if you donate even a few pennies, then that's probably the more than I'll get from ad revenues from like 10 or 100 of you. So please consider doing that. Thank you so very much. Until next time, stay strong and be free.